What up, YouTube? It's the Two to Base boys again, back at it with another hot video. I'm here with one of our newest teammates, Nathan Lovett. Nathan, how you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm really excited to be a part of the team. Excited to talk about these decks.
Yeah, man, you're a local here in Orlando. We met actually at locals, and we just caught a vibe from like the first couple of locals we met at. And in the back of my mind, when we had thoughts of expanding the roster a little bit, you were on my mind, and I'm stoked to have you in, man.
Dude, thanks, man. I'm so happy to be a part of the team.
Yeah, and the games we played together, I pointed out in my head, I was like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. Because we're trying to scope out the real big talent in Orlando. And, you know, we're trying to build on that competitive edge, man. And I just appreciate you being part of the team to help build that, man.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to be here. And yeah, the scene is huge, and there's so many good competitive players. So to be able to be a part of the scene, but also just be on a team where I can learn and grow as a player and play other people that are competitive. It's really fun, and I'm excited to get better.
Yep, and that'll happen. You know, we do get to run a lot of games against each other at locals and online. So with time, man, we'll get you where you need to be. We'll be out there in the field at these big tournaments coming up. We've got a couple PQs coming up here in Orlando.
Sir.
So we're already prepping for that. We got jerseys on the way. Little teaser there. We've got jerseys on the way. So you already know it's official.
Yep.
Man, really stoked for those. And again, just happy to have you on the team, man.
Thanks, man.
Tonight, though, we've been talking about making this video for like a couple weeks now.
Yep.
It started when, I'm not sure when it started, but I know like talking to you at locals, you were pretty high on KAZ on his potential, but at that time, Django was still legal to play.
Yeah, let's be honest. This whole video kicked off when Django got banned. We're like, okay, we can actually make this video now.
Yeah, first thing that came to my mind was like, okay, I'm firing off KAZ, like we're going on all cylinders, and I'll get to talk about my deck here. We're going to go through 3 decks just to give you guys a little rundown of the video. We're going through 3 KAZ decks that we think are viable. One of them that Nathan's built, one that I've built, and then one is just a blue deck that Late Night Gaming had posted. I haven't done a lot of, or honestly I haven't played any KAZ blue, just because exploring yellow and red is to me more important, just because of the toolbox you get. But we'll go through these 3 decks, and we'll jump right into it. Honestly, the first one on screen we have is your yellow KAZ. So why don't you give us your breakdown of the deck?
Yeah, sure. So 50 cards. It's a pretty cheap deck. It tops out at 5 in the main board. I'll go through my turn 1 plays first. So right off the rip, you have 3 of Cartel Turncoat and 3 of Republic Y-Wing. Right now, in such a heavy ping meta with Tarkentown, it's really good to get multiple units on the board early. Especially if I have Republic Y-Wing and Cartel, I can lead with the Republic. They can ping it, they will Tarkentown it, and then I'll put out the Cartel Turncoat. That way they don't get the bounty, and I can put KAZ's effect on it next round. Hopefully it stays around a little bit longer.
Yep.
The deck is built around, hey, let's get KAZ on a ship at 4, and let's protect him before we put him on that ship. Another great turn 1 play that I'm really liking is Leia into readying a resource and putting out a 1-cost ship. That's been huge, and not just in the ping meta. It's really big against control decks where you're immediately worried about getting powered next phase and being behind. So I really like always starting out with 2 units. Like I would honestly prefer that over a fireball. Unless I'm playing another space heavy deck like a Wedge or a Poe where I don't want initiative and I want them to go space so I can kill their unit with a 3/3 and then activate KAZ's ability to keep it around. That's really the only instance where I'm wanting to play the fireball over anything. And L3 is really good into Quinlan. Obviously want to protect it. There have been a couple games when I played against Quinlan. I just didn't draw well first phase, and it kind of set me up negatively for the rest of the game. So being able to get a unit out with a shield is huge, but it also just gives you more smuggle resources because, like I said, this deck is cheap. So there will be some instances where you may not have a whole lot to play, and you can smuggle out an L3 and then prepare. If they don't deal with it, you can put a blaster on it and surprise them. I am running 2 blasters in this deck. My main targets for that are L3 or the Mandalorian, or Ahsoka, honestly. I mean, obviously, Ahsoka is more targeted on card removal. I'll talk about that here in a second, or hand hate. I'll talk about that more in a second. But I really like 2 hot shots. I like double yellow specifically because I feel like this deck is more balanced.
You ever feel like you want 3 hot shots?
Always.
On the games that you don't draw, you're like, I'm going to put 3 in after this. And you just never end up getting 3 because, I don't know. I guess some people just argue against it, but sometimes I feel like I need 3 in there.
Yeah, I love Hot Shot. It's such a good card. I mean, there's other decks where I'm running 3 of, and I mean, I may consider it, just depending. I could see maybe going down to 2 Ahsokas and putting in 3 hot shots. I mean, that's the more aggressive route. I think, again, cunning overall, this is a lot more balanced version of KAZ, excuse me.
Yeah.
I know in your deck it's very explosive and it has some really fast plays where if you draw them and you play them well, you can't really recover. And I know you'll talk through that, but from a yellow perspective, I'm honestly trying to play a little bit more balanced game. I'm okay with it dragging out a little bit longer because I have all of the tempo plays like the cunning, like the cantina bouncers, like bamboozle, and I guess that gets me to the second row of past my 1-drops. Immediately start with a new adventure is huge. I will not take full credit of this. This is some conversations I had with another buddy of mine that was keen on a new adventure, but almost every unit triggers an effect and costs 5 or cheaper. So outside of L3, every ground unit in this deck has an effect when it hits the board. So, and everything's 6 or less, which is the requirement for a new adventure. So, I've literally had games where I have Cantina bouncered to bounce a big unit. They play the big unit again the next round, and I new adventure to re-hit the Cantina bouncer for only 2 rather than playing it for 5. And I still have 3 or 4 resources to play with where I can get in a surprise strike or even a cunning. Like I could go new adventure into cunning at 6 resources, which I've done, and that play's worked out really well. You can also new adventure against bounties, like especially with the rise of Control and Bosk probably making a comeback since Django is gone. If they put an early bounty on, I can new adventure and kind of disrupt their early play. So I really like a new adventure. I put in Bamboozle. This is a recent addition in the main board. I did have it in the side. And originally what was in there was Bodhi's, just because obviously it's a double yellow card and it gives me more options for hand hate. But I just think with Django being gone, we're going to see more upgrades coming back into play. And I think Bamboozle is too important to put in the side. So I took out the Bodhi's. I also feel like because I went up to 3 jam communications from 2, which lets me get rid of an event, I have a little bit more statistical advantage of drawing that, and I'm really looking to play jam at 4. So if I don't have, especially depending on the matchup, if I have jam in hand, that'll be my very first move before I even play out a ship that I'm going to flip KAZ to take away whatever they have to respond to my KAZ flip.
Well, that and jam comms on 3 jam comms is really a meta call, just because if there's going to be a lot of Quinlan around, that means a lot of Bamboozle. If there's going to be a lot of Han around, that means a lot of Bamboozle. So, because
exactly.
I think everyone knows that, okay, meta is a little open, let's try our KAZ, let's try these pilot decks, and those yellow hero decks are going to have Bamboozle in it, 2 or 3 of for sure.
Right, and, I mean, sometimes it's the heart of the cards. If I jam and they draw a Bamboozle next round, or they have 2 in hand, sometimes that's just the way it goes. I at least have information at that point, or I know I'm getting it out of their hands for other cards that I do have. So I mean, my goal is if I can get 1, maybe 2 swings with KAZ on a ship, that's huge. If he could stay around longer than that, great. But honestly, once I get past the 4 or 5 resource point, I'm looking to ship to ground.
Oh yeah.
In this deck specifically. So my targets for KAZ are the Millennium Falcon, two versions of the Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon piece of junk from set one, and then the new Millennium Falcon Get Out and Push, where you can put an additional pilot on it.
Oh yeah.
Between the two, the Get Out and Push version is more explosive because you can get this up to 14 damage on base with a surprise strike. Depending on the deck, if I'm not as concerned about the play getting disrupted and I have Han or the Mandalorian in my hand, I will put that on first before I flip KAZ. So especially the Mandalorian, I can put him on and exhaust whatever space.
I was gonna say the dream is probably I was gonna say the dream is probably have a Mandalorian with KAZ.
Yeah.
On that Millennium Falcon.
It makes it so hard to deal with, and if I don't have the Mandalorian, I'll jam to remove whatever they have. I'll put KAZ on it and I'll swing in. And I've also had games where Han Solo pilot acts like a surprise strike.
Yep.
Because he swings immediately when you put him on.
It's +3.
It's +2. But well, actually on the Falcon it's honestly +3 because it gets an additional +1 for every. Yeah. So I've had games where they didn't claim because they thought they had more action economy because I didn't have the damage, and then I put Han on and it's an instant swing and GG's. So that's huge. Now to talk about probably the most controversial card in the deck, and I know some people are high on it, some people aren't. I don't think Stolen AT Hauler is a win con. I think it is a card that KAZ needs to run, though, at least in double yellow or red, just to maximize his value as a leader. I am very comfortable in running in this deck, though, because of all of the bounce I have.
Yep, I was going to say, you got your insurance.
Yeah, if I play it at 3 and it gets bounced, I have Cunning, I have a New Adventure, and I have Cantina Bouncer. So I have 8 cards that can get that back in my hand pretty quickly. So I'm okay with the risk, but honestly, depending on matchup, I'll make that decision like game state wise of, do I want to play Stolen AT Hauler at 3 or would I rather play one of the Falcons? It just depends on the matchup. Yep. If I'm playing a more removal type blue, where I play it at 3 and then they get initiative and I know that the amount of options they have to get rid of it, I might not play it over something else. But again, I still think it's worth running it in the deck. Ahsoka has been huge. More hand hate options and a really, really good target for a New Adventure. I've played Ahsoka at the 6 resource point where I play her at 4 to get rid of a card, exhaust something, and then I play a New Adventure to get rid of another card just to get rid of more stuff in their hand and leave them pretty dry. Also really good late game if you're trying to stop a swing. I had a game against a Quinlan at locals this week where they had 1 card in hand and I played Ahsoka to stop a swing, and the card in hand was Falcon, which was going to give them lethal, and then I had lethal at that point. So it actually won me the game. I went down to 1 Kira rather than 2. I just feel like for me, I feel like Ahsoka is more versatile in a lot of situations. I feel like Kira obviously is really good into control, where I'm trying to stop them from playing big units at a certain point. But I also feel like that's more of a target for Pia and less of the field that is more aggro and mid-range. Because if I'm playing Kira just to stop them from playing stuff, especially if it's like Quinlan, he's got so many other options. Playing Kira is a little slow versus playing Ahsoka to get a 3/5 on the board and exhaust one of their units and or potentially exhaust and at least get rid of a card. So I feel like Ahsoka in the current meta has more value, at least for how I'm trying to play the deck, but I do have an additional Kira in the side just in case I need to up the percentage of drawing that card.
Yeah, the way I see it is like, okay, they're both 4 drops. So for me, it's like a 4th copy of just something that disrupts their hand. Yep. It may not be another Ahsoka, but it is the 4th option. Like you said, to up the numbers a little bit. If you could play a 4th Ahsoka, you'd probably want that instead. But having the 1 Kira kind of puts you at like a 4 of scenario for those 4 cost units. So it just adds a little math there for you to draw. that 4 cost unit that's going to disrupt him. So I love that.
Yep. And I don't think I need to talk much on Cunning. Cunning is still a card. It's still really good. The amount of games I've had where I'm using Cunning to bounce the Sentinel that they're trying to stop my space lane with. So like they'll use all of their resources, like if they play a Bright Hope at 4, and then I use Cunning to bounce it and buff. They've exhausted all of their resources. I'm getting in a huge swing.
Yeah,
and
you're swinging for like 10 or 11.
11 typically, and then I still typically have something to bounce. Like I've had Cunning into Cantina Bouncer where it's just incredibly disruptive, where they're constantly trying to shut down the space lane and they just can't. I already talked about Han a little bit. I'm really using him as 2 additional surprise strikes. I am not going to ground with Han unless I absolutely have to. It just feels a little slow. And honestly, at that point in the game, for 5 resources with a 4/5, he's typically dying or not killing whatever he's swinging into. And if he does kill it, they've already got other stuff on the board at that point where it's not not putting me in an advantageous position. However, the ground unit, or the unit that I'm always trying to play in the ground, is the Mandalorian, unless I'm pulling off the really cool Falcon combo I talked about earlier. The Mandalorian at 5 is essentially a 5/6 unit Cunning because you get to double exhaust something.
Oh, it's fantastic. And then next phase, if he doesn't die, you just hotshot blaster on him.
And
you can kill most leaders with that. You can kill a Quinlan with that.
Mandalorian with a hotshot blaster. He's a gunslinger, man. You got to put a gun in his hand. I have also had games though where I have, as much as I wanted to swing, I immediately replay a new adventure and get the double exhaust again, and then swing space, and it just buys me another phase.
It's so good, man. Yeah, double yellow has more tricks up the sleeve, and that's where the argument between red and yellow gets like, okay, is the meta gonna allow for more punching to the face, or is it gonna actually need more tricks up your sleeve? And I think we need more disruption. I think having all the disruption in the deck is what's gonna make you elevate and protect your KAZ from getting bamboozled or power of the dark side, because you're able to play jam and drop a unit on the KAZ flip turn, and it's just so good. Like if you didn't want to get takedown on your AT hauler, you play your jam, you play your hauler, then you flip KAZ, you know? So, I love this list, man. Yeah, double yellow was the first one that I built, and then I went into red, but man, this is huge. And talk about the sideboard a little, like, what's just a quick rundown of the sideboard?
Yeah, just briefly go through the sideboard. I mean, breaking in, obviously I'm not running the full 3 of breaking in, but if I'm sideboarding, I'm typically sideboarding it against some version of blue or green that's running a lot of sentinels, and I'll swap out 2 of the surprise strikes for the breaking in. That way I have a higher statistical chance of drawing them. Spark of Rebellion would replace the jams. So obviously jam is really good at taking away events, which is in the main board what I'm trying to look for. But if I'm playing like a Piet and the first game went really late and I didn't have anything to snag their Avenger, you know, going into second game, I will take out 2 of the jam communications to put in Spark, because even though it cost 1 more, so I may not be able to do as many actions on the KAZ flip, I can still take whatever their option is to get rid of him. But I mean, it kind of sucks. The one thing with jam that sucks is if you play jam and they have no events in hand, and then you're just wasting a resource. So definitely running Spark in the side in the instances where if I feel jam is less effective, I'll switch that out. Running 2 waylays in the sideboard, again, if I just need more tempo disruption. I think I would probably go down to 2 Ahsokas and remove the Kira to sideboard in the waylay, because the other, I feel like the 5-drop units in this are really the heroes in the ground.
Yep.
And I wouldn't want to go thinner on any of those. I already talked about Kira a little bit, but obviously I'm running 1 more in the side if I need to go up on percentages of her. With her, again, like this would probably be against more so controls, like the boss, like the Piets. I would probably second game, third game, go to 2 Kira, 2 Ahsoka, and 2 Sparks and 1 Jam. And then lastly is Commandeer. I haven't messed with Commandeer as much since TDR got banned. I don't know how necessary Commandeer is in this list at the moment, so I may actually take those out to
It's very good against Boba 4.
Yeah.
It's very good against the new Boba. But other than that, there aren't really many decks that are you're gonna be able to use this on. I mean, yeah, you'll be able to steal like, you know, those small early turn plays from those aggro units, or aggro decks, but on 5 resources, like something already has a pilot on it.
Yeah.
Maybe they're playing even bigger ships. I suggest maybe going into the more Change of Heart. I know you can't kill it. Like Change of Heart's really a palp card.
Yeah.
Unless you're able to swing into one of their units and kill 2 of their units. Like if you're able to trade out one of their units with their unit, then it's really good. But Change of Heart might be a good, like, oh, I'm playing against Pia, let me just claim and Change of Heart his Devastator, you know, and force them to deal with it. So maybe maybe without Django being around, there might be a place for Change of Heart in here. I have Change of Hearts in my red sideboard. And
Nice.
it's a game saver when you're playing these big decks that if it goes past like the 6 resource turn when you're hopefully already close to winning, Change of Heart is just like so good. But yeah, no,
that definitely makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, it comes in clutch and they don't really expect it. You know, you're playing a fast aggro deck, like they're probably not expecting you to play that. But if the game goes past 6 resources, which it sure can, having Change of Heart on deck is really good. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
I love the list. Thanks for giving us that huge breakdown.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for letting me run through it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are trying to hone in KAZ, and I think this will help give a more in-depth breakdown for sure.
Yeah, he's fun. He's a lot of fun.
Why don't we look at the blue list? Let's look at the 5 decks to watch list from Late Night Gaming. So we'll go into like the general stuff. We won't go too in depth here. Why don't we just blitz through it? So why blue? So blue has cool stuff like the new Hera upgrade, so she's giving restore to whatever she's attached to, and she could also just be a 2/3 with restore 1, which I think is huge. You're paying 2 to pilot, which I wish it was 1 to pilot. That would make her like really good, but she is an uncommon, so I think where she's at is pretty fair. So the new KAZ scene is also kind of spicy. Like going against this online has been a pain. His ability is attached unit gains on attack, discard a card from the defending player's deck. If that card costs 3 or less, draw a card. That is a huge card.
I think that's the unsung hero of this deck. Honestly, I've played a blue that ran Cassian, and it really forces you to take it out and to not just let it stay on board, because it's not swinging for a whole lot when it pilots, but the hand hate as well as the card draw for your opponent is just so huge.
Yep. They've got Contracted Hunter. I wonder why you're not playing this in your yellow deck.
Yeah, I just I think for me, I'm trying to play so much more at 3 that I don't want to take away what I'm trying to play at the 3 resource. And then once I get past 3 resources, I'm really trying to lean more towards the Cantina Bouncers, towards the Han Solos and the Mandalorian. And I feel like I get more value late game out of the bigger units or out of playing smaller units to go wide. I think Leia is also huge late, and I would rather exhaust with Leia and have more resources to maybe get in a surprise strike, like Leia into a surprise strike.
Yeah.
Then swing with Contracted Hunter for an ambush for 4, and then either it dies or I KAZ it and it stays around, but it's typically getting taken out pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's probably not worth even using the ability on. It's like you said, it's got that awkward number 4 where it's not killing some of these 5-cost units that a lot of the Quinlan decks are playing.
Right.
Then we've got Trace Martez. Someone told me this was the best card in the set. So attached unit gains on attack. You may heal 2 total damage from any number of units. So does that mean the way I read it is however many units you have that are damaged, you can just heal 2 from all of them, right? Is that how it's reading?
I think it's you may heal 2 total damage from. Oh, yeah, I had to reread that. That's kind of wild, actually.
That's why I'm telling you. People have said this card is insane and very interesting in a ping meta, because then you could just heal it all. So, and it's on any unit you attach it to. So, like, that card's amazing. Because you're paying 1 for a +1/+2, and it's getting a very crazy ability. So that might be a huge reason to play this deck as well. I love that. Then it's got the Han and the Mando, which double yellow Mando. So they're probably just playing this as a pilot then, because
I would assume so.
Yeah, and as a backup, what you're paying 7 to play this, and hey, paying 7 to have a 5/6 and exhaust 2 units is probably still worth it. It's kind of like how people pay 6 for vigilance.
Games where that's an option.
That's like a last resort. And they've got cartels, so those are pretty standard. And then they've got the corporate defense shuttle. This unit can't attack, so obviously you're using KAZ, and you're getting a 2-cost 3/5, which is absurd stats. Other than that, though, he's probably a solid KAZ target for sure. You're getting a 6/8, so pretty interesting there. I love that. I think that's a huge reason. It's a rare, so it makes sense. Fireballs. We got this Outer Rim Headhunter. So it's a 2-cost 1/3 raid 1 on attack. If you control a leader unit, you may exhaust a non-leader unit. So a little bit of tempo there.
Yep.
Restored Arc Mosquitoes. Sean calls those mosquitoes just because like nobody wants to kill a 2/3, and it's just healing over. I mean, on average they're healing like
annoying.
Yeah. If they don't Tarkin Town, and you just play this like after like a few turns, they just become a problem. Then they've got Concord Dawn, and KAZ on a Concord Dawn is kind of funny.
Yeah, I would honestly up that number. If I was running blue, I'd be upping that number of Concord Dawns to at least 2 of.
I do know this list is like a very early list. So it was during the Django meta, and given that fact, actually, there should have been an RD3, but Falcons, so we got 3 and 3 of all the piece of junk Falcon and the Get Out and Push Falcon. Smuggler Starfighter.
That one's kind of interesting.
If you control another underworld, because I actually saw there were a few underworld. Not that many, actually, now that I'm looking at it. We've got the Contracted Hunter, Cartel Turncoat. Smuggler Starfighter. So when played, if you control another underworld unit, give an enemy unit -3 for this phase. Well, 1-up is interesting, but you can't smuggle it, so...
Yeah, maybe it's giving another smuggle option. And actually, now that I'm looking at the deck, you've got like more in depth. You have Stolen AT Hauler, the piece of junk Falcon, Cartel. So I mean, you have 3 units that are also underworld that would come out either before, or like just before you would want to play Smuggler Starfighter. The way I see it is because it's a 4-cost smuggle. You're probably playing this at 4, smuggling at 4 to give -3 to whatever space unit could potentially take out what you're going to put KAZ on.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, also if they play like a Bright Hope or some annoying Sentinel, that might help.
Yep.
Then they've got the haulers, the Dakar Cargo Frigate. So this unit gets -1 for each damage on it, while it doesn't in KAZ. So it is a 5-cost 6/7, which is pretty big. That's above rate for sure. And then putting KAZ on this makes it a was it 9/10?
Yeah, I was about to say there's honestly games where I'm waiting to flip KAZ until I play this at 5.
Yeah, like you don't even have to.
Huge.
Yeah, with this build, you don't even have to flip KAZ on 4. You could just wait and put it on this thing.
And honestly, that's something that I'm learning in yellow as well. Like, I always want to flip KAZ at 4, but if I don't have a space unit, honestly, flipping him to ground is a 2/5. One, he dies really easily, but he's also not adding a whole lot to the board state.
Yeah, it's also good to not play super telegraphed. Like, I mean,
right?
You're sitting across from a KAZ. You know that like their whole game is to play this thing on the 4 resource turn, but you don't have to play it like a Sabine. You can play it a little
No.
differently because, especially with this, there's some removal, not a whole lot. Like, talk about the events. What a toolboxy event list. You've got basically one of everything in here. The outmaneuver is interesting. I do think that was definitely a Django call.
Yep.
Could also be really good if people were playing that Unity of Purpose Rex deck, because then they play their what's the card called? Oh, Unity of Purpose. They play
Unity of Purpose.
They play their Unity of Purpose, and then you just outmaneuver the 3-cost uncommon Sparkle Rebellion card that just shuts that deck off.
Yeah, I also think Jam is a great answer to that as well. I literally played a Rex deck today where I had Jam in my opening hand, and I held it until I saw Rex flip at 5, and then I claimed. I didn't swing with a unit so that I make sure I could claim, and then immediately going into the next round, I jammed and I took his Unity, and it broke his entire game.
That'll do it. Got a couple other goodies like Confiscate. Again, this list was like before, I think. This might have even been like right when the set 4 came out. But it's got 1 Jam Comms, 1 Swoop Down, 1 Bamboozle, 1 Surprise Strike, which is interesting. You're all clear, kid. Defeat an enemy space unit with 3 or less remaining
That card's
HP.
really good.
Yep, if you do, and an opponent controls no space units, you get it. So that's like a turn 1. That's like your that's like a Temu Tarkin Town, but you get an XP token.
Yep.
Well, turn 1 you wouldn't have that, but if you played a unit claimed, you can buff your unit.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's an initiative only card, at least in KAZ.
Yeah, or it just kills something clutch down the road when you have enough resources to just pay for it.
Yep.
1 fell and 1 takedown, and then sideboard's got Jam Comms, 2 more of those, another Swoop Down. I think this is literally Django sideboard, but Bamboozle, another You're All Clear Kid. Basically just adding more to what's already in the deck. So, and then 3 Rivals Fall, probably for Anakin, or some of these like bigger leaders.
Yeah, Anakin on a 35-point base right now is a bit scary if you can't deal with him.
Yep. I like this list. Interesting. It'd probably be completely redone and with a few parts here. But interesting to see if this pops up around any of the big events at all.
Yeah, I definitely think it's got some game into it, and I do know other people that are running KAZ in blue have looked at, I can't remember the name of the base, but it's the one where you get to give a shield to a unit. I think it's Security Complex.
Yeah, Security Complex.
Yeah, I've seen some people run Security Complex. I know you can't put it on a leader, but what you do is you essentially, rather than playing, like let's say you don't have a jam or something to block, you're essentially shielding the unit before you put KAZ on it.
Yeah, it guarantees like they can't just do the damage, I guess.
Exactly.
So if they try to like ambush something in somehow, then they won't be able to.
Right. Now that feels real bad when you put a shield on it and then someone take down or power the dark side, but it is another potential option just depending on your matchups to be able to put a shield on it to save it. I think covering the wing would be a really interesting card in blue.
Yeah, I think
you get to create an X-wing token and then give a shield to another space unit.
I'd probably take You're All Clear Kid out for that, to be honest. That card hadn't even popped in the scene when this deck list was made. I bet you if they made the list right now, it would have those in it.
Oh, there'd be 3 of probably.
Let me talk through red now. So red,
probably the most fun version of the deck.
Probably the most fun version. Probably the most punishing if they don't have answers. I'll talk a little bit about my experience. You guys see here the Beatle 2K list. This is what I played in the field on Saturday and Sunday of the event. I was the only KAZ deck in the whole weekend in the event. So no KAZ, just me. Probably bad pick because Django was still around, so it was very hard. So I'll run through some of my weekend and go through the list. So on the day of Saturday, I think I played it on Sunday actually. I ended up going, my first 3 rounds were against Quinlan's, and I had 1 close game, but the other 2 games were not close at all. I'm pretty sure one of them I beat in 3 swings. They were
wild.
Yeah, they were all 2 Tarkin Town. Yeah, 3 swings. And it was on stream actually. Um, I played 2 Tarkin Town and then 1 ECL. So I'll go through the list. It was a good turnout. I went 3-0 on that day, and then in the 4th round I met Ian Lego Pizza on his Django in 4th round, and I got him to 20 HP in both of the games we played. And I just had 1 swing left, but with War Juggernaut, he was able to stop that from happening. So if it wasn't for Django and War Juggernaut, I probably would have had a pretty good day on it.
Wow, that's wild, man.
No, yeah, I was feeling great. You're the only KAZ player. You're against all odds, and just running through these meta decks. And then Django, it was close. It wasn't by any means like it wasn't a shot in the dark. There was a light at the end of the tunnel, and then they play War Juggernaut, and it's like, okay, you've exhausted all my stuff. So, but going through the deck, man. And this is just knowing Quinlan. I didn't build this deck really around Django. I just kind of built it and was like, let me just shoot for the stars and hopefully I can trench run my way through the games before they start doing what they do as Django. But I've got BB-8 in here. A big reason why I have this in here is because turn 1, remember, you're thinking of Quinlan, right? So I did not get Tarkin Towned against any Quinlan deck I played. No, they couldn't kill my turn 1 or turn 2 plays. A lot of the Quinlans, some of them didn't even end up using Tarkin Town. They just never had a chance. Or the game was already over before they had a chance to use it. The reason being is because you play Cartel Turncoat, and then right after that, you can play your BB-8 on it, so it gives it +2 health, putting it at 5 HP. So you take it out of Tarkin turn range. Against Quinlan, they're not even able to ping it on turn 1 anyways, because it's a 1-cost unit, unless they're playing Cartel Turncoats, which in the meta right now, they probably want to be doing that, so they could ping. A lot of people are getting around it by playing 1-cost units, but we'll see how that shakes out. I've got black ones in here. A huge card in this deck just because your upgraded ship is getting +1. So if you put KAZ on here, you're getting that extra +1. So you're swinging for 6. It's a solid unit. I love using this. BB-8's really good because there is resistance synergy, so I can do the shenanigans where you're paying the extra 2 to untap a unit. I'll go into the Black Squadron here in a minute and kind of talk about the combo there, but it's got your basic stuff that you want to see in KAZ. So it's got your Cartel Turncoats, your black ones, Fireball, Green Squadron A-Wing. Some people ask me, like, is it worth playing this, or should you just play the, what is it, I think it's just the X-Wing, or the
Resistance X-Wing?
No, just the regular white, the white unit, 2-cost.
You have just the regular X-Wing, and there's also the Y-Wing where it's a 1/2 and you swing, and then the person has to choose where the 2 damage goes.
No, the one I'm talking about is the heroic, just 2/3 plain vanilla.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think it's just X-Wing Starfighter or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just like Green Squadron A-Wing. I don't know. I just feel like it's a classic. So it's got the fighter tag, so you're going to be able to trench run on it. Millennium Falcon is huge, obviously, like you said in your list, the same thing. It's definitely a KAZ target if you can flip onto it. I don't have the new Falcons in here just because I wanted to fit in a couple other cards, so I had trouble fitting an extra Falcon in here, but I'm considering putting it back in just because Django's not around, so I can afford to maybe drop that down now. I've got my stolen AT haulers. I don't have a lot of ways to get my hauler back.
I would honestly think about replacing the haulers with the Falcon, because, I mean, obviously, you're running thin here because the events in red are so huge. But like Heroic Sack and Trench Run in this deck, like, you can't not run those when you can disable the negative effect of them. So because you have so much more risk with the hauler, maybe you replace hauler with the big boy Falcon.
Yeah, hauler won me some really good games against the Quinlans at the event. I do have spare the targets in here to get that back if they take it.
Sure.
Yeah, looking at it now, I still can't decide.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, I can't decide if stolen AT hauler is just a liability. I mean, I played against a lot of good players you play against are going to find a way to get this ship. they're gonna find a way to take it from you. Hopefully you're able to turn the ability off before they can do that. I learned over just practice with the deck how to navigate around some of that. Sometimes people will actually skip their whole entire turn to claim and just kill this because they're that desperate for it, and if they do that, then I'm fine with that because then I just spare the target. So they wasted a whole turn.
Yep.
Black Squadron Scout Wing. So this is your card for the BB-8. If the game goes a little later than you like it to, you can play this. You can swing with it, and then when you play BB-8, you get to swing with it again. So you could attack twice with it, essentially. And it's probably your best target, just because it's a 4/6, and when you're putting BB-8 on it, it becomes a 5/8. So really good.
That's wild.
Oh, actually, no, it becomes a 6/8. Well,
yeah, because you get the +1.
Yeah, you get the
+1 from BB-8 plus the +1 on attack.
Yeah. So I mean, that's, what is that, 12 damage. So I love this. I had, what did I have in here before? At the 5 slot, I think I had Plo Koons. And I think going back to this, I totally skipped the rest of the ground units, but I'll go back to that. I don't know if Plo Koon is needed right now. I think Plo Koon's the best in Quinlan because of the being able to ping and do 7 damage and kill like your 7 health leaders. But I struggled. I felt myself like resourcing Plo Koon so much. I think with this, if I know the game's gonna go a little later than I like it to, I'll play this, and you know, hopefully if they don't kill it right away, which it's out of takedown and fell the dragon range, so I'm hoping not. Until I put BB-8 on it, then they can fell it. But I do like my odds of playing it on 5 resources, and then that's my turn. I'm not sure it's gonna get killed unless they power the dark side, and it's my only unit. Then it just feels really bad, but it could just win you games. I think including a big combo like this in the deck is pretty good. I don't think a lot of people expect that right now. It was pretty bad with Django because I would basically never be able to get that off. But with Django being gone, I made sure to include this in there for sure. So that's why I have BB-8 in here. So a couple good reasons why to have him. Sometimes I ended up playing him on the ground, just to, like, you know, if they want a Tarkin Town and I don't want my Cartel Turncoat to die, or I wanted to have 2 units, like if I'm playing against Blue Villainy and I don't want to get Power of the Dark Side, then I will play BB-8 on the ground, and then I'll play a Cartel Turncoat. So that I found myself doing a lot, and my opponent looking at me weird, like, okay, you have a 1/4, like, big deal. Well, you gotta do what you gotta do to avoid, you know, not having a unit on the board. So with KAZ,
when they power next round and then you trench run on your cartel and it swings for 6, they'll
understand why
at that point.
Exactly. So a lot of how having a, you know, you've got to navigate around that stuff, and sometimes it's deciding what to sacrifice ahead of time, you know, before it even happens. On the ground, I've got Leia, like you said. I do like playing Leia into the turncoat, or, you know, Leia into a BB-8 on the ground even, just to, again, it's all avoiding that, like, not having a unit on the board thing. And then 3 Sabines, just, you know, Sabine's a classic ground unit for 2, think she's still solid. And then I've got Cassians to smuggle out when they don't think I have a play. Hans are in here. They're, you know, Hans just like that hotshot blaster in space, or just that, like you said, ambush for 4 if you have to, if you're desperate. I won't really talk about the quantities of the cards. I know there could be some tweaks here. Heroic sac, I mean, these are standardized in the deck. So heroic sacrifice, you're always going to be 3 of. You're always going to have 3 trench run, 2 bamboozle, 3/4 of KAZ, and this is controversial here. So I don't have surprise strike, and that's because when you include surprise strike, you're foregoing the 4 of KAZ. 4 of KAZ won me so many games at that event. So the card's not leaving the list.
Yeah, and you're the one that told me about this, because I asked you and I said, no way, Liz, and you said, well, it misses.
Yeah.
It misses for 4 KAZ. In this list, you never miss. You are always hitting for 4.
Stolen AT Hauler is my only yellow card in here. So my odds of hitting 4 are very good. Even with surprise strike in the deck, I just felt like I kept hitting 3s and 2s and 3s sometimes, just like really bad feelings. And I'm like, you know what? how greedy are you to have 3 Trench Run, 3 Heroic Sacrifice, and 3 Surprise Strike?
Right.
I did find myself praying to God, like, why didn't I have a Surprise Strike? Like, please draw that Trench Run. So maybe there's a world where, like, having the 6 yellow cards isn't that bad, or maybe I can just go down to 2 AT Hauler and try to fit a couple Surprise Strike in here. It might be worth it. But I mean, I was burning through the Quinlan decks just with Trench Run and Heroic Sacrifice. So, I mean, it was enough to get me 3-0'd on the day to start out. So I feel like Surprise Strike isn't necessary. And there's going to be people probably in the comments like, you definitely got to run Surprise Strike. But there's an argument where guaranteeing 4 damage is better than maybe getting 3 damage off. Why? Because if they're killing your units and you're almost killing them, their base is so low in health, 4 KAZ just ends up winning you the game, like, without question. And then you can also dig. There's no card draw in here, so in my eyes, this is digging and getting you to that next Trench Run, or to that next...
It's helping you to find the answers.
Yeah, to that next 4 KAZ. Like, I do think when this card hits the table, nobody's happy. And they know what's happening. You know, you're paying 3 to deal 4 damage. That's what it is.
Yeah,
and you're filtering through your deck. So that to me is worth tucking the Surprise Strike, so that way I can guarantee the 4 damage more often.
Well, I like all of the events that you're running in this deck, and just counting up, you're running 16 events, which is on the heavier side from what you typically see. But that's because the units that you are running are already so impactful off of like that Trench Run or that Heroic Sac. So taking away more units to add in more pump when you've already got so much built in already, like, you run the risk of statistically not drawing units. And that's more of a risk than having an extra Surprise Strike. But if you don't have a unit to actually Surprise Strike with, again, it's like you said, it's like you have to kind of play around your percentages and what you would see. And I think making sure you have a unit on the board is more important than that 3 extra damage that you could or could not get. But the 4 KAZ, even if you don't have a unit, you're for sure getting damage. So there's just so much value that card brings.
Yeah, I love this list. We'll post the links to all these lists in the description. Sideboard real quick is, like I said, I've got the 2 Change of Heart. The 2 Commandeer, remember, this was a meta call to the Django decks. My extra Spare the Target, which I found sideboarding in almost every game. So maybe this deck needs to go to 3 Spare the Target just to protect the AT Hauler. I'm thinking of taking out the AT Hauler and going with something that is a fighter. So I can have my 100% hit on my 4 KAZ. And also be able to have that extra unit to use Trench Run on, because there were times where I had Falcon or AT Hauler out and I couldn't use my Trench Run. That felt very bad. Those were the times where I'm like, ugh, if this was just a Surprise Strike, I would have won. So maybe there's a world where I can get rid of the Haulers and not be so high on that fever dream, because, like I said, good players are going to find a way to get this ship. They will. And then in the board, I also had some Confiscates. Again, this was just like, Beatle was the first event with set 4 in a highly competitive setting. So I wanted to build him and see if he could survive at all, and I was happy to at least burn through some Quinlan's. I wasn't able to play anything. I think I played against a Boss Blue, and just turning off the bounties felt amazing. I think I ended up still losing that match, just because, like, Boss Blue's still really good, even without the bounties. At that point, it's basically just Vader Blue, where you're just removing units. They still have access to kill everything you play. So it was very close, but I think he ended up nailing it. But yeah, overall, I was pretty happy with how the deck played. I loved having the reactions. I think McClunky Gaming, Titanic came up to me out of nowhere, and he said, "Hey, are you the KAZ player?" Oh, dude, awesome. He's like, "Dude, do you want to play? You want to play in stream?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" So that was cool, just having knowing that I was the only KAZ in the weekend, which is kind of crazy, because I'm like, yeah, no,
that's wild, actually.
Yeah, no, it felt crazy. I didn't know that until like middle of the day though. When he came up to me, he's like, you know, you're the only KAZ player. I'd be sick to get that on stream. But I think my first round of that day was on stream with KAZ. And it went
That's
pretty
cool,
good.
man.
Yeah, it was cool.
Well, congrats to you, man, on making the bold decision to go KAZ when no one else would at a huge tournament like that and having a pretty darn good run with it.
Yeah, like I said, it's honestly one of my bigger competitive events. I've been to 2 PQs so far. I'm still getting my hands wet and being more competitive, but yeah, it was a great event, great deck list. I'm gonna post all 3 of these in the description. We'll go into like a little final thoughts segment. But yeah, overall, thanks for making this video with me, buddy.
Absolutely, man.
KAZ, I'm gonna see if we can bring this thing to the finish line and find out what color is best. Right now, we're thinking yellow is probably best in what's going around as far as the meta. Hand disruption is really good, and if you could kind of mimic what Quinlan's trying to do and add a little bit more speed to it, I think we'll be in a good place. But red isn't to be messed around with. This deck can literally just fry through people if they're not answering. But yeah, overall, love the discussion, man. It's been great. Any last words for the folks out there?
I mean, I think you covered it well. I think KAZ is a really good deck, and at the end of the day, KAZ is fun to play. And for me, I always find that I play better playing the decks that I have fun playing. So if anyone's interested in trying out KAZ, test these lists, tweak them as you see fit. But it feels really fun to swing for a lot of damage real early. So
Yep.
Slap them on a ship, swing hard.
For sure, man. Hey, Nathan, thanks for taking the time to record this with me. You guys at YouTube, make sure to check out tudabase.com to check out all of our new blogs. Feel free to hop in the Discord. The link will be in the description. Join us. We talk about a lot of decks there. We have a whole entire deck forum that's public, no paywalls, dropping all kinds of conversation. We're always throwing feedback in there with all your deck lists that you bring to the table. And yeah, don't forget to follow the link in the description also to the Havens website to get 10% off all of your swoop product. And yeah, other than that, guys, thanks for tapping in, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.
Thanks, everybody.